increased in rank and skill, you were allowed to pilot increasingly bigger and more advanced drones. Spartan hover tanks, nautiloid attack submarines, Sentinels, 10-foot-tall super aphids with more firepower, and the EVA's largest and most impressive weapon, the Titan War Mech, a giant humanoid robot that looked like something out of an old Japanese anime. Ray happened to be controlling the War Mech at that very moment, and he was in trouble. I watched as a horde of alien spider fighters closed in on him. His mech finally succumbed to the incoming barrage of laser fire and toppled backward into a large tenement building, demolishing it. He and I both winced, and terra firma players got penalized for all of the property damage caused by their drones in combat, intentional or otherwise. Although the game's backstory embraced a lot of tired alien invasion tropes, it subverted many of them too. For example, the Sobrikai weren't actually invading Earth in person. They were using drones to do it. And humanity had constructed its own stockpile of drones to repel them. So all of the aerospace fighters, mechs, tanks, subs, and ground troops used by both sides were remotely controlled war machines, each one operated by an alien or human who was physically located somewhere far from the battlefield. From a purely tactical standpoint, using drones made a hell of a lot more sense than using manned or aliened ships and vehicles to wage an interplanetary war. Why risk the lives of your best pilots by sending them into combat? Now, whenever I watched a Star Wars film, I found myself wondering how the Empire had the technology to make long-distance holographic phone calls between planets light years apart, and yet no one had figured out how to make a remote-controlled TIE fighter or X-Wing yet. A warning message flashed on Ray's HUD. Your drone has been destroyed. Then his display went dark for a second before a new message flashed on his HUD, informing him that he had just been given control of a new drone. But, since all of his unit's larger drones and tanks had already been destroyed, Ray was forced to take control of the only thing they had left, an aphid. Armored, tactical, humanoid infantry drone. From the neck down, an aphid looked similar to the original Terminator after all of Arnie's cyborg flesh got burned away, leaving only its armored chrome skeleton underneath. But in place of a human-shaped head, each aphid had a stereoscopic camera encased inside an armored acrylic dome, giving it a vaguely insect-like appearance. Every aphid was armed with a Gauss minigun mounted on each forearm, a pair of shoulder-mounted missile launchers, and a laser cannon embedded in its chest plate. I watched over Ray's shoulder as he used his aphid's twin miniguns to mow down an onslaught of Sobrikai spider fighters, 8-legged anti-personnel robots, that were attacking him on the roof of a burning tenement building, somewhere near the center of the besieged city he was helping defend. He was bobbing his head in time to his favorite TF battle soundtrack song, Vital Signs by Rush. Ray claimed that its unique time signature matched up perfectly with the alien spider fighter drone's erratic swarming patterns, making it easier for him to anticipate their movements and rate of attack. He also claimed that each of the other songs on Rush's Moving Pictures album was perfect for battling a different Sobrikai drone. Personally, I always assumed this was just an excuse he concocted for playing that same album on a continuous loop day after day. On Ray's monitor, dozens of Sobrikai troop ships were descending from the sky. These massive gunmetal gray octahedrons were what the enemy used to deploy their ground forces once they reached Earth's orbit. Each one had automated sentry guns mounted all over its heavily armored hull, which was nearly invulnerable to laser fire. Of course, in typical video game fashion, these ships had been engineered with a glaring weak spot. Their engines were unshielded and vulnerable to attack, a fact I knew well from playing Armada. When one of these diamond-shaped troop ships made landfall, it would impact with enough velocity to bury its lower half into the surface, like a giant spike. Then the pyramid-shaped top half would open like an enormous four-petaled metal flower, and the thousands of Sobrikai drones packed inside it would pour out like an army of newborn insects, bursting from a broken egg sac, intent on devouring everything in sight. In the distance, a swarm of Sobrikai glaive fighters streaked across the sky, banking in unison to change course, like a school of piranha in search of prey. Viewed from above, the blade's symmetrical fuselage resembled the blade of a double-headed axe. But seen edge on, its profile distinctly resembled that of a flying saucer from an old sci-fi film, a detail that had worked its way into my earlier hallucination. I'd destroyed countless blade fighters during the 3 years I'd been playing Armada. Until now, I'd never found them especially frightening or ominous. But today, just seeing the background animations on Ray's screen filled me with a sense of dread, as if the ships really were somehow a threat to everything I held dear, and not a harmless collection of textured polygons rendered on a computer display. Ray power-leaped his aphid off of the burning rooftop and onto the back of a Soberkai basilisk, a reptilian-looking robot tank with laser cannons for eyes. Ray power-jumped into the air again, spinning his aphid around 180 degrees, just before he brought the huge metal basilisk down with a single, well-placed missile shot to its segmented abdomen. It exploded beneath him in a huge orange fireball, and Ray had to fire his aphid's jump jets again to land clear of it. "Bravo, Sergeant," I said, using his rank in the fictional Earth Defense Alliance. "Thank you, Lieutenant," he replied. "I'm doing my best, sir." He grinned and raised his right hand off of his mouth long enough to snap me a salute before refocusing on the battle. According to the readouts on his HUD, his squadron had already lost all 6 of their hover tanks and both of their Titans. They only had 7 aphids left in reserve, and the pulsing icons on his tactical map indicated these were stored inside a nearby EDA weapons cache that was already under attack by a swarm of spider fighters. Ray's squadron was fighting a losing battle at this point. The city would fall to the Soberkai any minute now. But as usual, Ray kept on fighting, even in the face of certain defeat. It was one of his most endearing qualities. Ray was, by far, the best terra firma player I'd ever seen in person. A few months ago, he finally managed to earn membership in the 30 Dozen, an elite clan of the best 360 players in the game. Since then, I'd seen him logged on to terra firma's servers every day, playing one high-level mission after another. And since he wasn't burdened with distractions like school or homework, Ray could devote his every waking moment to the game. So he'd logged more combat time than me, Cruz, and Deal all put together. "Son of a bitch!" Ray shouted, hitting the side of his monitor. I glanced over and saw that the Soberkai were currently overrunning the surviving members of his squadron and exterminating the last of their drones. A few seconds after Ray's last reserve aphid was crushed between the firefighters' vice-like mandibles, the words "Mission Failed" flashed on his display, and then he was treated to a cutscene animation of the Soberkai's forces destroying downtown Newark. "Oh well," he muttered, shoving another mouthful of Funyuns into his face as he pondered the city's smoking ruins. "At least it's only Newark, right? No big loss." He chuckled to himself as he wiped